start us off seated briefly. So have something, if you would, that allows you to be comfortably upright in your spine. I want to do something that just brings us into breath and our spine, and then we'll take those same principles, I should say, into some of our movements. So first, find that root and rise. Sits bones to crown. Remember, you can always take your legs out into straddle if you're experiencing any hip or knee discomfort. This will also make it easier to be upright. And we're going to do our Sufi Grind here. So we're going to go, first of all, counterclockwise with the chest. So if you'd like to marry breath with it, and we want to do it nice and slow, think about inhaling in that forward half of the circle and exhaling in the backward half. Through the nose if you can. So we're going to do a few more. I'm going to see if we can slow it down. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a count. So if you want to begin with me, inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5, and inhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep going, another round this way, and if you're doing it slower than this, great. If you can't quite slow it down this much, just notice, and we'll keep working on it. All right, after that last exhale, we're going to go the other way. So inhaling forward, now taking it to the right. And exhaling to the back. So you can see it's a little bit of a cow-cat back here seated. It's a lovely chance to notice what's in your spine today. What's in your sinuses? How free and open or how stuffy are they? It can be very challenging to kind of sip breath past the stuffiness, but that alone is actually a really great breath development practice. If you'd like, add your ujjayi, that nice throat contraction, creating a whooshing sound of breath. If your mind's been really busy, that ujjayi is a nice cleanser, white noise for the brain. Light connection of the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth, and let's do one more this direction. Is there more? Is there more inhale? Is there more exhale? And then coming to upright. And as you're ready, just take your head down to the right, like you're lowering your ear towards your shoulder. And while you're there, please just sort of nod your head a little like you're saying yes. And I'm hoping you can feel how that brings some stretch into various areas of the left side of the neck and even into the front there. Deepen the inhale. Find that last little stretch that it gives you. And to come out of this stretch, use your right hand to press the head up so that you're not working those same muscles that we just stretched. And let's take it to the left. Is this side different? The body loves your attention, by the way. So when you ask for that information, you tune in, you dial in, there's already so much happiness in your body to feel that you are connecting. Body, mind, spirit, wholeness, yoga. Add that little yes or nod of the head. Nice long inhale. And using your left hand to bring the head up. And then still with the eyes closed, inviting you to just sort of gently circle your head a little bit like a top. Not a big movement, nothing aggressive. And my hope is that your head feels nice and free from that stretch that we just did. If not, notice where the tight spots are so we can care for them. All right. We're going to move the cushion out from under us and roll forward onto hands and knees for a cow-cat. So intelligent hands, middle finger straight forward, shoulder heads anchoring. Inhaling, draw forward through the heart, back through the tailbone, keeping the neck nice and neutral. Is there more? And exhaling, tuck the tailbone, cat back. Okay, let's see if we can do this twice more, and I'm going to count for us again. You can ignore me if you like. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5, and inhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling, 2, 3. And again, you could be going slower than this, and that would be marvelous. Let's do one more. And when our next cat back is completing, we're going to take it to our first downward facing dog. If for whatever reason that doesn't feel great for your body today, then keep hanging out in cow-cat or move into puppy. All right, send those hips up and back. And then let's explore the backs of our legs. So I'm pressing one heel at a time towards the floor. It makes it easier to get to the floor than if I'm doing them both at the same time. So it allows that stretch into the calf, the Achilles, maybe into your hamstring. Good. And then when you're ready, nice big inhale, raise up on both heels. Exhale, belly to spine, send the hips back, and then see if you can press both heels towards your mat. We don't care if they ever get there. We just want the stretch. But notice, if your heels are more than like an inch or 2 off of the mat, you've got some pretty tight lines in the back of the body there. Calves, Achilles, hamstring, and so on. One more big breath. Good. We're coming to our knees and then our belly. Nice knee down, chaturanga. So relax the feet. Have your shoulders right over the wrists as you slowly lower. Elbows in towards the ribs. Marvelous. And relax. Turn your head to one side. Sighing breath. Gathering a nice soft inhale through the nose and then a lovely soft release through the exhale. Good. Drawing those hands back alongside the chest, resting on the forehead. Clamp those elbows in. Anchor the pelvis. Inhale, draw your heart forward towards cobra. Now you might only come an inch off the floor. That's great. Exhale, return. Inhaling cobra. Maybe you're pressing with the hands and creating a little more of a king cobra. Exhaling, return. The key is that our neck stays neutral, our pelvis stays anchored, our elbows are in and shoulders are anchored. So we feel really strong and open, nothing crimping. Okay, let's do one more. Is there more? Slow, deep, and wide. Exhaling, release, and turn your head to the side again, other way. Inhaling, exhaling, sigh. We know that sighing breaths actually help calm the amygdala, the alarm center of our brain. Resting on the forehead again, take the fingertips back and tent them, preparing for jet airplane. Anchoring the pelvis. Check that the fronts of the thighs are on the mat versus kind of rotating the feet or the thigh bones out. Try and have it be centered. Inhaling, extend. Again, maybe just an inch or 2, or maybe you've got a deep extension, but we're not trying to look forward. Exhale. You can relax completely on the exhale if you'd like, or just kind of reduce your angle. Let's do about 3 more and bring it into that really slow breath if we can. Inhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5. And inhaling, maybe you want to release your hands off the mat, maybe the legs, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling, 2, 3. And you don't have to be in motion through the whole exhale, right? You might be returning to a completely relaxed position. Let's do 2 more like that. Jet airplane is one of the most important poses in my mind. So find this version that works for you. If having your legs off the floor bothers your back, don't do it. Because the real work we want is through that shortening and tightening, believe it or not, of those back muscles that are actually overstretched. They're the ones that allow us to be hunched forward. So we want to tighten and strengthen them. We want them still to be fluid, but we want them to be able to shorten and contract. Last one. Is there more? Turn the head to the side, sighing breath. This moment, this body, this breath. All right, I'm going to invite you to extend your arms forward now, like we do in Superman. But a note that the hands do not have to be straight forward the shoulders, okay? So you can take them out a little bit wider if you feel any neck or kind of deltoid tension. Resting again on the forehead. On your inhale, slowly, first just reach long through the right hand and left leg until they happen to want to come off of the mat. And then exhaling, keep reaching long as you slowly return. Inhaling, reach long through the left hand and right leg. Exhaling, reach long as you slowly descend. Let's do that one more time each side. Find how much length is available through your rib cage, armpit, hips. There's so much space in there. Last side. Imagine there's something really beautiful, maybe a little apple blossom just beyond your hand that you love to reach. Find it and return. Good. Plant the hands back like you would for cobra to move back to your child's pose. So it's a nice strong transition. Take those knees wide, resting on the forehead if you can. You could also grab a block and put it under the forehead or stack the fists. Try to settle. And as you experience deep breath, watch it move as it grows. Notice where it touches your body. And once more now, tenting the fingertips, this time trying to kind of, as I call it, spider walk them forward until your entire arm length is off of your yoga mat, if you can. You can also take them a little wider as needed. And I hope that you're feeling all the great work happening through the deltoid and upper arm and through the upper back. One more deep breath here into the effort. And release. Nice long inhale. Exhaling, tuck the tailbone, nice cat back to bring you up. Bring those knees underneath the hips. So I'm going to bring us forward into some knee down lunging. And if being on your actual knee bothers, you could grab a cushion, of course, and have that underneath the knees. Or you could also, of course, come into the lunge on your foot instead. Otherwise, we're going to bring our hands up to our hips and come forward with the left foot. Steer that right hip bone forward, left hip bone back. Keep scooching that left foot forward until there is no more forward movement. And then just kind of pulse. So I've got my heel directly under my knee. This is really valuable for the health of the knee. Hold hips forward as best you can. Nice core support. Inhale, express yourself up through the arms. Slow, deep and wide breath. One more. Exhaling, release. So you could go back to your child's pose. You could also release this out to kind of table and give it a kick, or you can go to downward dog if you're craving more of that today. Hands on hips, right foot forward, scooch until it's beneath the knee. And pulse. Pause, express yourself through the arms. And again, you can be knee down or up in a lunge like I am if this knee doesn't like being in that position. We don't have to know why, we just always love our joints. Like, okay, whatever you need. One more long inhale. Exhaling, release. Again, either table or dog or child's. Marvelous. All right, we're going to come into our first plank. And your option right here would be to go down into your forearm position if you know your wrists need a more ease. Otherwise, just step back vigorously through one foot, ball of the foot, heel flexed, and then the other one. Check that you feel like the weight is in the full palm if you're on your hands. You don't want to feel that it's in kind of the base of the hand near the wrist. Good. See if you can do 3 slow, deep and wide breaths with me. Again, if anything, we want to make sure the exhale is longer and slower. This action actually really increases our VO2 max, which they talk a lot about in athletic endurance scenarios, but it's good for healthy life as well. It's how our body uses oxygen and how efficiently it operates. So one more if you can here. Soft gaze, soft tongue, maybe you're even smiling. See if you can exhale for at least 1 or 2 more counts than the inhale. Woohoo! And your choice to release back to either downward facing dog, or again, you might go to child's pose, especially if you want to release out their wrists. Yeah. This kind of work makes them really strong in the long run, but we gotta love them up along the way. All right. I'm going to bring us into our pigeon pose. And so if you like pigeon alternate on the back body, if that's better for your knees, go for it. Otherwise, I'm just going to bring this right knee behind the right wrist. Settle in, check in, how's that knee? Nice core support. And then supporting the head, perhaps on the fists or on the floor. And inviting you to join me once you're into your position with some bellows breath. And this is a very rapid breath in and out through the nose, really using the abdominal wall as your pump. So long inhale, and then begin. Notice as you're doing this, we're going to do a few more, if you're tightening in the neck or any other part of you, your mouth or anything, to try and produce the exhale, and instead become soft and peaceful and just aware of that pumping of the bellows of your abdomen. Last couple rounds. And then a long inhale and exhaling through the mouth, slow and soft. Keep exhaling as long as there are whispers of breath. And take your own time coming out. Some of us enjoy what we call waking pigeon here, so we're on the palms, drawing the heart forward. You could even play with reaching your left arm forward and up, which can create a wonderful stretch for the front of the body. Make sure that you're not pushing back and crimping the lower vertebrae. It's a nice extension forward. Good. And let's release out again. Your choice. Maybe table, maybe dog, and you want to send that leg flying. Give it a rotation.
Good. And bringing the left leg into pigeon or pigeon alternate. On your back body, you would cross that left ankle onto right thigh and go a little to the right. So is this side different? If you're wanting a little more intensity, you could use your back foot to draw a little further back on the mat. And check in with your neck and tongue and eyes. Invite them to be really relaxed. And then just using the power of that center body, begin your bellows breath. I think of it like energetically fluffing up a pillow. So taking that inhale. And then couple more. See if you can soften the neck. Then a long inhale. And exhaling as slowly and softly through the mouth as you can. Whispers of breath. Inhaling to your waking pigeon. So if you're on your back body, you could even go into a little bridge pose if you'd like, getting some front body opening. And would it feel good to reach forward and up through that right arm? Where does the breath travel? How slow can you make it? One more. Nice, slow release. Dog or table, or if you're on your back, maybe you want to do a little windshield wipering. Nice work, folks. We're going to come into gate pose. So I'm going to come down onto my right knee. You might even be starting in table. Take that left foot back and place it 90 degrees. And before you really release into the pose with your left hand, check out all the points you're in contact with the mat. We'd like our right hand, right knee, right foot, all to be alignment with the left heel. And then look at your right hip. Most of us, it's probably kind of out behind the knee. See if you can squeeze your glutes towards that left edge of the mat until your thigh bone is straight. And it's kind of cool because you can feel that's the impetus actually to rise and open in the pose. Keep pressure down through that back foot. That's actually a huge part of the pose that people often forget about, and they're kind of bending the knee, and you want to feel super strong there. And in fact, if you're really rooted, you might be able to kind of release your floor hand. Have fun with that. Yeah. And if you're really lifted through the right rib cage like we'd like to be, you might be able to release your back leg. Check it out. See if you can be flexed and reaching for the wall behind you. If you're wobbling, great, you're human. This is awesome. That quivering is actually where the body learns. So it's not a bad thing at all. If you'd like a little extra challenge, try and rotate your vision towards the sky. Just make sure there's nothing dangerous to fall on. And return. Whew. So one of the things that we notice often in balancing poses is that that's one of the first places we hold our breath. So we're going to try this side and bring very conscious breath to it now that we've got the mechanics down. So take that right foot and step back. Check your alignment. Squeeze that left butt cheek. You should also feel that left waistline already coming into effort. Pause. Check that that lower shoulder is anchored, that that back leg is rooting, really pushing like it wants to stretch your yoga mat. And see if you can release your floor hand. And then slowly release that back leg. Check in with breath. How slow and deep can you make it? Maybe you can look up at the ceiling. What is it like to breathe here inside of this effort and instability? Feel how powerful you are.
And even if you fall, you know, when we are strong and we fall out and we land softly, it's a great indication of how present muscularly we were in the pose. All right, return to your table. Inhaling cow. Exhaling cat. One more. And downward facing dog. Again, if you're trying to do less wrist stuff, by the way, you could come to your forearms here, just like we do in forearm plank. Three steady breaths. Downward facing dog was my least favorite, and that's putting it nicely, pose when I started yoga. It can be hard to breathe here, it can feel kind of claustrophobic. This will bring up all of our tight and weak places. And I so appreciate it now, partly because I am stronger in the upper body and the core where I wasn't, but also for the stretch that it allows me to get through my back body. Find your edge, take one more deep breath here. See if you can find more length through the armpits, rooting, reaching. Marvelous. Slowly walk the hands back to the feet, as slowly as you can go. Pushing, pushing, and settling into your ragdoll. Inhaling, extend halfway up, hands on shins. Is there more? Exhaling, fold, belly to spine. So you're doing kind of a compression breath, right? Emptying, 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 emptying. And again, inhaling, extend halfway up. The knees can be bent here. Have your weight midfoot. Spine long. Exhaling, fold. Emptying, emptying, emptying. Inhaling, root and rise. Perhaps you can watch as your palms connect. Exhaling, prayer hands. I love to touch the third eye, point at the center of the forehead, and then right at the heart space. Witness breath in this upright shape. So this is our first standing pose of our practice in Tadasana, mountain. And we'd love to find a place where we are rooting and reaching, but it isn't tight and effort filled. Let's add our jet airplane arms to this. Now this is one of my other favorite poses. Remember I was saying that laying down, but I love the standing version because you could do this while you're having a conversation in your kitchen. And we should be doing this multiple times a day ideally. I'm hoping you can feel how there's this wonderful effort and engagement in that upper and mid back, and that there becomes kind of a groove, a riverbed between the shoulder blades, versus if I'm hunched and that whole upper back becomes flat. If you're not sure what I mean, intentionally rotate your shoulders forward. It's kind of like when we're in cat back, right? And then engage in jet airplane. And you can just feel that happening, creating that nice groove. You could also watch it in a mirror. Let's do that one more time. Nice. All right, we're gonna take this engaged power into our quad stretch. If you need some support with balance in order to enjoy the stretch, go over and find a wall and hang on to it. But otherwise, we're gonna take the right ankle in the right hand, and then I'm gonna re-rise up, because sometimes we bend to find that position. I'm also gonna check that that right knee is coming back in towards the center line of the mat or of my body. And you might reach that left arm up and out. Some people like having it in like a half prayer hand at the heart. Breathing. So again, this is a balancing posture as well as a stretch. So if you're wobbling a little, great. Notice if you feel that you're losing your balance because that inner line of the foot is peeling away from the mat, push down into that base of the big toe. See if you can get more stable. Let's take one more deep breath. And release. Ragdoll. Good.
Inhaling, root and rise. And exhaling, prayer hands. So a reminder that our mountain stance, our neutral position for the feet, is maybe 2 fists between the feet. Okay, you don't want to be out here. So nice and centered down through. As you're ready, we'll clasp the left ankle. Remember, always you have the option of doing the laying down pre-bow version. You could also grab a scarf or a strap to hook around your ankle if you can't reach it. Bring that left knee back in towards that center line. Does this side feel different in terms of stability? What's going on in balance? Can you give an extra rooting through that internal line of the foot, the ball of the big toe, base of the big toe? One more long inhale. See if you can really rise up through your heart space. And release. Ragdoll. I always find that this little low back release of ragdoll feels really good after that posture. Inhaling, extend halfway up. Hands on shins. Exhaling, sit to your chair pose. So in chair pose, I keep my hands mostly forward, maybe a little up. I never try to bring them straight up, as I find that it just really creates pressure and havoc in ways that aren't good for me. So you're welcome to try it, but I want you to find a place that's easeful for your neck, and then see if you can come onto the balls of the feet, steadying the breath. Ujjayi, soft gaze, just the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth. If you've squished your tongue, the whole tongue up there, soften it, then just connect the tip. Can you create space between your molars? I know I'm giving you so many things to pay attention to at once. Inhaling, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. Yeah, so we'll never get it perfect, and we don't care. But we practice attending to multiple things at once. All right, I'm going to bring us to the front of the mat, and we're going to come into our train tracks. So again, I'd like you to start with the neutral feet, maybe 2 fist widths apart, hands on hips. This is a cool one to do in a mirror at some point, because you're going to step back your left foot, and I'm just on the ball of the foot. It's not a huge lunge like we're trying to do when we're doing warriors. And then I'm going to slowly put that left heel down, intending that it goes straight back like it was when I started. And I should have had you check that your feet were parallel. Pause and look underneath you to see if it is straight. If it isn't, put it back in the train track. If you can. You might not be able to completely. I couldn't on this foot when I first started this practice. And come upright. Perhaps add jet airplanes. Another nice option for arms here is actually a little tricep exercise. So you have your palms flexed and you press back. Oh, gracious. Sorry, that thing fell right off again. Well, the joys of technology and making adjustments. Thanks for your patience, folks. Appreciate it. All right. So giving you some nice tricep action as well. And then as you're ready, come back to mountain. And a great indication that you did some good work is if that leg feels a little jello-y or weird. Let's take the right foot back. Slowly try to lay the heel in the train track. Pause, look underneath, arrange it, and come back up. So when you're in this stance, if you feel like no stretch at all, then I would scooch your front foot forward just a little bit until you can feel like a calf stretch or maybe a stretch around the kind of knee and IT band of that back leg. And you're kind of scissoring your legs. So this is the same thing we do in crescent lunge, warrior one. We want to feel kind of a scissoring of the thighs, hip bones straight forward. and your choice of either jet airplane or flexing the hands and kind of pulsing and pressing into that tricep press. See if you can really activate your back thigh at the same time, pressing back, breathing into your heart space, which is lifting. Couple more. Notice if you're moving onto the outer edge of that front foot, re-anchor through that inner line. And if you're not sure what I mean, take a look at your own front foot, kind of go a little bit back and forth to pinky and big toe, and you'll see what happens in your leg and ankle. It's a big deal. All right, let's come back to our mountain. So I'm going to shake that out. I'd love to do it one more time each side, hoping you might even notice some improvement from just that one round. Step back with that left foot. Set the heel down in the tracks, you think. Look underneath, check it out. So to be clear, we are parallel. We're not in a balance beam. I've seen that sometimes be misunderstood. Good. See if you need to deepen your stance, scooching that front foot forward a little bit. Scissor those thighs. And express yourself, reaching up and out through the arms perhaps. We're going to do 3 very slow breaths here. There's a lot of interesting wisdom that says that the longer and slower your breaths, the longer your life will be. And in that sense, I would say also the more rich, the more present we are for it. Good. Take one more long inhale. And a nice slow exhale, returning to your mountain. But it's funny because I sometimes think that we feel like we're living a more rich life, more jam-packed in when we're rushing around and we're breathing fast and we're talking fast. So it's a really different way of living. But it is so rich if we can make that adjustment to slowing it down. All right, right foot sends back. Find the track. Look under to check it. Adjust. Don't settle for like, yeah, it's sort of straight. Really get it straight. Come up. Again, check that scissoring of the thighs or the anchoring of the inner foot. And notice if you have a tendency to lose that inner foot rooting, maybe only on one side. And that is definitely the case for me. I already know this about my left side. It's really changed and evolved. But that I had so much inner thigh weakness and outer hip tightness that it would pull me off center. And you might have noticed something similar in your pigeon pose. There would be a similar pattern that might show up there between left and right. Let's find those 3 slow breaths here, really testing our ability to be present this moment, this body, this breath. If this is too intense, come out. Otherwise, see if you can stay present with both the effort and the release that's here. Good. One more long inhale. Is there more? And exhaling, return to mountain prayer hands. All right, we're going to step sideways on our mat and immediately start moving into some nice side to side. And this is just such a healthy movement. This is one, again, that you could easily be hanging out, waiting for the coffee to brew or something else to happen, a conversation with a loved one, and you could be doing these kinds of side to side lunges. And you can just keep it super basic, hands on hips or hands on thighs. You could also start counter reaching. And I love this effort. You get the twist and rotation through the body, and you also get that impetus to see, can you get a little longer? Again, like, gosh, there's something, a ripe piece of fruit over here that I want to pick. You can counter reach back through the back arm, and that means you're getting kind of a nice karate chop that again works your tricep. So check it out. See if you can get both elbows totally straight. And don't worry about going too much to the side. So you're not literally like reaching for the end of your mat, because that's going to be a little awkward with your knee position. So it's more kind of forward at like a 45-degree angle. I can feel the work happening in my waistline here. And this is huge because a lot of us are very tight but also weak in these rotators and our obliques and our lats. So this movement, in addition to helping the low body, gives us a chance to become much more resilient. Again, for all the things we love doing with our body. I know a lot of you are gardeners. All right, so we're going to slow it. I've been kind of suggesting you just do it at your own pace, but we're going to just take it slow for a couple of rounds to that slow breath we've been doing. So when you're ready, whichever direction you want to go, inhaling into your lunge and reach and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and come upright. 2, 3, 4, 5, and other way, reaching, inhaling. 2, 3, 4, 5, and come upright. You can add little jet airplanes if you want. Releasing the neck if you feel like you're taking on any tension. One more time each side. Inhaling. And exhaling, center. Last side. I'm hoping you're feeling the power from the rooting of your feet all the way through the core, out through those fingertips. And exhaling, center. Good. Bend the knees and fold. Let's get a little straddle going. Hanging here. You can have bent knees. You can bend them really deep so you're in a bit of a squat. You can try to straighten them. Marvelous. And I'm going to bring us back up by bringing my feet in a little bit. It's just easier to come up from a squat here. If you've got the flexibility in the knees to try this without it hurting, you can bring your butt nice and low first, and then come on up. Yeah, a great practice for gardening, right? All right, we're going to return to the front of the mat, and I'm going to take us into some warrior flow. We've been doing a lot of it in practice, and so I know that most of us have the basic alignments, but I just want to remind you, because this is part of why I don't do a lot of flow and yoga basics, because the alignment's so important, and I know sometimes we have some newer folks, but the key piece really is that knee is tracking with the heel. So some of you might have been doing yoga actually for years, but still have a habit of your knee coming inside of the heel. And especially when we go to Warrior 2, where we need to externally rotate the thighs. So I'm going to have you initially look down and check your own alignment, because again, it's possible, even if you've got a long-standing practice, that you might have a habit that your eyes can help pick up on. All right, we'll find our mountain, rooting and reaching, hoping you're feeling all those core muscles come in to support the lift of the rib cage. It's not forward, it's just lifted. Inhaling, raise that left knee, standing crane. Pause. Anchor through that internal right foot. Nice long inhale, slow exhale, extending back into your crescent lunge. You could really enjoy the balance part of the journey, and then land. Good. Steer those hip bones. Check that internal anchoring of the foot, scissoring of the thighs, however you want to think about it, and express yourself. Maybe arms are up, out, down, slicing. Maybe you're craving yoga mudra. Oh, it can feel so good after that back work we've done. All right, so we're going to move to Warrior 2. And the easiest transition certainly is with hands on hips. It's going to be the safest. So find that back 90-degree angle of the left foot. Return your vision to the right knee and foot. And as you kind of pulse and slide your hips and knee forward, you should see that your right knee basically is tracking totally with your toes. And if you're not sure, intentionally stick your butt out to the right and then squeeze it to the left, and you'll find that straight thigh bone. And then what length of stance feels good? I'm going to have you hold for like 2 breaths maybe once we're here. So if it's too deep, you come back up, but otherwise go for it. See if you can get 90 degrees with that front thigh and calf. Pause, reach out, and breathe. See if you can get the exhale longer than the inhale, as if it's all you would ever do. Whispers of breath. One more. Inhaling, straighten that front leg. Oh yeah, it feels good. Reach up. I always like to look down. It just feels better on my neck. And then let's exhale, flow forward towards our lateral stretch. Make sure that you don't give up that thigh bone alignment, right? So it's really easy when we come forward with the elbow for a lot of people to stick their butt out behind. And that's why we're really careful with potentially bringing that right hand towards the floor or a block, is that we don't want the butt to go back out behind us. So when in doubt, re-engage that right butt cheek, stack that left shoulder. I've even got my left hand on my left hip bone to kind of remind it to rotate back. And as you're ready, reaching forward through that left arm overhead towards the wall in front of you, or if that's uncomfortable, you might be reaching towards the ceiling or even in a partial bind. All right, I'm going to bring us back upright, sweeping up through the arm, turning the heel I should say, so I'm in straddle again, and folding. So if you've taken on a really long stance and it's too much, just kind of walk those feet in a little bit. Deep breath here in your fold. Let the inhale have room. Exhale, enjoy those soft, last whispers of breath. Inhale, drop the butt as much as you can. Inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. And returning to the front of the mat in our mountain. And of course, some of you, if you hunger for dog and dog series, this would be a great time where you would go into that and then rejoin us. Pause. Notice, again, that beautiful lift of the rib cage. Any downward movement of the rib cage and it impacts our diaphragm, our breath, our digestion massively. All right, standing crane, right knee lifts, yoga toes. Soft tongue, space between the molars at the back of the jaw, maybe a soft smile. And what's happening in that standing leg? Slow journey back. Long whispers of exhale. And setting down. Steer the hip bones. Again, check that that knee is tracking. And as you're ready, express yourself. A couple of long, slow breaths. Now, if you'd love an extra little challenge, you might close your eyes. Notice, by the way, if your toes of your front foot are gripping, curling underneath you, we don't want that. We want to root and spread. It's just like intelligent hands, right? We're not, See if you can find that similar rooting and spreading. Some of you probably already do it automatically, but it's a good thing to check. All right, I'm going to transition to Warrior Two, placing my hands on my hips, planting my back foot 90, scooching my front foot until I feel I've got a good, challenging but safe place to explore. You want to make sure your feet aren't going to slip here. In fact, I have a yoga mat that's gotten kind of old and sun damaged at the ends and it's getting a little slippery, so I keep adjusting so I know my foot's not going to slip. But some yoga mats are slippery, and if that's the feeling, bring your feet in closer together. Otherwise, see if you can deepen and get to that 90-degree angle with your knee. Thighs externally rotate, reaching out from the heart for front and back wall. Couple of slow, steady breaths.
And you can, of course, play with your head position. You might decide to look behind you and then forward again, never forcing the head. Long inhale when it comes, Exalted Warrior. And remember, this is to your breath timing, right? I'm just providing a general framework, so don't rush, please, to meet my words ever. On an exhale, slow movement into lateral stretch. Again, starting with those shoulders stacked, that left butt cheek pressing towards the right edge of the mat. Again, if you're not sure, test it out. You bring your left butt to the left and then look and see how your thigh bone's at an angle. We want to get the glutes pressing to the right. We also think of it as externally rotating the thighs. Elbow to thigh, stack shoulders, bring head back into alignment. And playing with that top arm. If you've got it towards the ceiling, it can be kind of fun to challenge your balance and look up. Something that really helps, by the way, is also using the lower waistline to press to the ceiling. That gives you a lot of stability. You don't necessarily even need the elbow or the hand. And again, if you reach for the wall out beyond the head, oh, marvelous side body stretch. Let breath take room. One more. See if you can deepen the hip alignment in the exhale, sending it forward. Good. Inhaling all the way up. Turn the heels and straddle. Forward fold. And you can go a little side to side, whatever feels good. Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorite movements too, is just having the hands on the floor and doing a nice low straddle. If that doesn't work, again, your hands can come up onto thighs or hips. And as you're ready, walk those feet in. Maybe drop that butt on down. Just see what works for you. Inhale, root and rise up. And prayer hands. So I thought it would be a great time to remind us about the standing hip pump that I basically made up. It's just a way to release our body when we've been sitting a lot. So it's great if you're doing road trips, you're doing gardening, you're sitting at your computer, whatever. But you can do it with your feet together in that kind of neutral position of mountain. You can do it wide. But the key piece is that you're bringing your butt out a little behind neutral, and then you're squeezing it forward while you push the earth away. And you can just feel, it's almost like squeezing a sponge of your glutes and your quads and your hip flexors. Everything gets so kind of just tight and pulled into positions over periods of time. So we're giving it a release. You can make this a small movement. You can make it bigger and even add arms. So inhaling, I'm squatting down, reaching forward. Exhaling, I'm coming up, and you can pull back like you're pulling on a TheraBand. You can also do like a little tricep press with our palms like we did earlier. Let's do just a few more. And for this, the breath is fast. We're not trying to slow it down. It's a more powerful. All right, let's do one more. Marvelous. And I'm going to sweep my right arm behind me and then across a couple of times, just nice and languid, and then bring it across for a nice stretch. So this is sort of like thread the needle that we do on our knees. Make sure that your hand is at about the elbow or higher. Yeah. You don't want it all the way up by the shoulder, but just somewhere in that kind of few inches around the elbow. See if you can straighten that right elbow. And then go slowly a little down to the left. So I'm shortening my left waistline, elongating my right. Good. And when you're ready, release it on up. We'll do the other side, and just a nice languid sweeping. I think of it as if there's like a table around you and you're sweeping leaves off the surface or something. And as you feel like it, bring it across and hold. So the kind of end part of your inhale is often what will allow you to experience not only the stretch in the shoulder, but also in that kind of upper back between the shoulder blades where so many of us are tight and you're like, oh, I wish someone would massage me. Well, you can right here. So let's do one more really thoughtful inhale. Send it there. And then you might tilt down a little to the right. Nice big inhale into the ribs. Send it into those left ribs and waistline. And release. Again, what would feel good to you? Sometimes a counter stretch of Yoga Mudra feels good here. I'm going to invite us most certainly in a little neck love. We started there at the beginning of our practice, and I'm hoping that there's even more fluidity, because a lot of what happens in our neck is because of tension in the chest and lack of strength and that kind of pull of the upper back. So we've done a lot to release that. So taking your hands now in kind of a collar, as I think of it, so your fingertips might just be touching at the back of the neck. You're not gripping or anything. And you're going to simply let your head go down to the right and then curl it around behind you on the surface of the hands to the left. So they're kind of, the head is moving along the pinkies. Sometimes it feels good to add a little bit of pressure or kind of torque with the one hand. But this is a really wonderful way to stretch and release the neck, especially through the occipital ridge area, because your hands are supporting the lengthening and space of your discs lower down in the neck, so you're not at risk of getting that awkward crunch that sometimes happens where like, oh. So notice if this feels good. This would be a beautiful massage to give yourself every day. When that's done, let's love up the hands a little bit. We've asked a lot of them today in our yoga, but also with everything we're all doing in the spring. So one of the things that is just classic with yoga is our prayer hands. And then you can reverse them. Now, when we do that, I often see people shrug. So if that's your challenge point, start with your palms together down at your low belly, fingertips pointing down, and then simply rise up until you get the stretch through the forearms. You should kind of feel it maybe in the wrist, but also into the forearm area, the inside of the forearm. And then as you're ready, bring your kind of wrists apart, but keep all of the fingers touching if you can. And this is just a great stretch, especially if you're doing a lot of gripping. This is a wonderful way to release it. And then just shake it out. Roll it out. Nice. And I want to do one more thing for our forearms. So I'm going to have you take your left hand onto your right forearm, kind of just below that crease of the elbow. And I'm just giving it like a C clamp. I'm not gripping in with the tips of my fingers, just a nice little C there. And I just want you to slide. So my hand is on my skin, and I'm then kind of pulling up and down. And you can move your hand progressively kind of up and down those sort of 4 to 5 inches of the forearm. And then secondarily, the other thing I'm going to offer is skin rolling. So the way you do this, and it might be a little hard to see, but I'm still working my left hand on my right forearm, is I'm going to take and kind of squeeze like the top of the forearm, but then I'm using my left thumb to skin roll the skin out to the right. I don't know if you can see that or if that makes sense here. And it should feel good. A lot of us take on way too much tension, again, in forearms. Just even using a mouse, for example, is really, really problematic for a lot of us. And this is wonderful. But again, if you're a gardener, you're doing landscaping, whatever. Maybe you're an artist and you're doing a lot of manipulation. So then going to your other arm. So again, it's first the C clamp. And you're kind of going up and down. You know, maybe this just doesn't feel like much for you, in which case you might be pretty good there, but a lot of people suffer from tension through here.
And then taking, when you're ready, your hand to do that skin rolling. So again, I'm kind of placing my thumb and fingers, and then I'm squeezing and pulling along the skin from the inside to the outside towards the elbow. It can feel kind of intense and pinchy and a little bit stingy. So when you're done, give it kind of a nice rub out. All right. I want to invite us in bridge pose, and if yoga mudra just hurts for you, don't do it. If it hurts your wrists, if it hurts your neck or shoulders, you simply can't breathe while you're in it, do not do it. But otherwise, once we're in bridge, what you're trying to do is straighten the arms, and you can see how I'm getting a shoulder blade sandwich here. And then I want you to see if you can activate your pinkies towards the mat, which will give you that last bit of elbow straightening. And if you can't, then just do it with your arms straight, okay? So as you are ready, come on down to your back. Place your feet in that mountain stance. And before I even raise my hips, I like to kind of wiggle my shoulder blades a little closer together. That creates that nice same valley along the cervical spine that we talked about when I was standing. Gather a nice long inhale. Exhale, slowly press the hips up. Feel all the beautiful work in your body. And I want you to check in with a couple of things. First of all, making sure that the thighs are engaging as if you were kind of holding a block between your thighs. You could also add your block there if you'd like. That can be a nice piece of attention. You could use something besides a block as well if you don't have one. A stiff pillow or something like that. And then also I want you to check in with your glutes, that they're not hyper engaged. That can actually contribute to sciatica and things like that. So we want them to be present, they're working, but they're not gripping. And then see if you can bring your palms behind you together, intertwining the fingers in yoga mudra, and then anchoring those pinkies down. Soften the neck. You're not going to want to roll your head side to side in this position, but you can tell it to kind of melt. You're not using your head to lift your hips. Good. Gather another long inhale, sending the ribs up towards your chin, sending your knees away from you. And stay here as long as it feels like you're doing really good work, where you can bring the breath in and stretch, where you're loving the engagement of the pose. When you are complete, come on down. You might give yourself a little knees to belly. One of our favorite poses, and we often start with it, but today we'll end with it. Good. Let's take it into happy baby from there. So you might be grabbing at the ankles, the blades of the feet, the big toes, or even using a scarf or strap across the arches. Anchor the shoulder heads down. Work your tailbone towards the floor. We're not quite at Shavasana yet, by the way, so don't get too excited. We're really close. Bring those heels together in butterfly, maybe an active butterfly here. You could even add a little sit-up as if you wanted to kiss one big toe at a time. You could also be in our more relaxed butterfly position, feet on the floor. But an add-on we did the other day that I really enjoyed is feet here on the floor in butterfly and then raising the hips. And we're going to hold for about a minute. So don't rush there if you're still doing the active version. We'll be here. Again, I'd like to be using the glutes. It's part of what this exercise does, but not gripping. Notice that it's okay to kind of wave and wobble here. That there's a natural fluidity of the pose. This is going to create a lot of alertness and strengthening in parts of the glutes and those inner thighs that I mentioned. A lot of us are weak, and it will show up in some of the postures that we were doing, like train tracks or trying to get aligned in our jet airplane or our crescent lunge and things. One more long breath. See if you can find that 5.5 or so count. And come slowly on down. Good. Knees to belly. And we're going to do one last held posture with breath before we come into our supported pose with the block. So it's forearm plank. You could simply roll over onto your belly, or you could spinal rock up to seated and the whole deal. All right. On the forearms here, you can either be on knees or on the balls of the feet. If you are on your feet, make sure you think about that same imaginary block between the thighs that you do in bridge pose. Let's find anywhere from 3 to 5 slow breaths here. Notice if your mind wanders, return it to breath attention, scanning your body, softening through your mouth and eyes. Again, remember, you can always come to knees, and I recommend that if you're feeling any low back pressure. All right, I'm going to do one more long breath here. Whew. And you might just turn your head to the side, rest on your belly a moment. If your low back is craving a release, you might move to child's pose. Otherwise, we're essentially going to be coming onto our back and putting the block under the sacral triangle. Now, if you preferred, you could do the block under the ribs, just south of the bra strap, by just being on your elbows and kind of tucking it in there. As you know, we want the neck to be comfortable, so you might have to tuck a pillow under the head. But I'm going to be doing this sacral triangle position, and this is one of my favorite releases during gardening season that can really kind of traction that low back. So if you don't have somebody around that you can just say, hey, can you massage this area? This is your friend. So set your hips down so that the block is right on that bony triangle at the top of the crack of the butt. It's not in the low waist at all. And if you're pretty tight, you might want to just have the knees bent, and this will give you plenty. If you'd like more, you could extend the legs, and you're just letting them go. There's just sort of an outer rotation that'll happen naturally. And this can feel really good, usually for a shorter period of time. Take deep breath into that low bowl of the belly and hips. And if you find it difficult to stay present with breath, a lot of people confess that it is, consider adding mantra. So, for example, on the inhale, you might be doing an affirming, I am well, I am whole, I am safe mantra, or something like that. On the exhale, you could be affirming a release of tensions or thought forms that don't serve you. A couple more breaths if this is feeling good. If it ceases to, then you want to come off right away. And again, maybe bring knees to belly and so on. One of the best tools that I know for noticing what thought forms are costing us is something I learned from Byron Katie, and she wrote a book called Loving What Is. And I highly recommend it. I don't really know anybody who wouldn't benefit from it. But I love that it's so simple, and she asks you to notice your thought. So, you know, if I'm having judgment about someone or something, for example. And then you can ask if it's true and stuff, first of all, but also, primarily, how do you feel when you think that thought?
And that for me is always very instructive, because if I notice, like, oh, now I feel heavier, I feel de-energized, I feel, angrier, I feel whatever, less present, less content perhaps. I'm like, maybe I just want to let go of that thought. It's not serving me. So it can be a really fun practice if you're struggling a little bit with your own thinking and letting go of de-energizing thoughts or thoughts that don't serve you. You might ask, how do I feel when I think that thought? The second question for that is, who would I be without that thought? I find it infinitely interesting, so I hope you have fun working with that. So I'm going to invite you to settle into your resting posture. Perhaps it's a seated meditation or you're in a Shavasana corpse pose. Perhaps you're on your back with your legs up on a couch or something. Either way, I'm going to ask you to join me in 3 sighing breaths, each exhale being a very soft, slow settling into the moment and to wherever you feel your body resting. And one more. I love noticing how light my sighing breath is at an end of the practice versus at a beginning of my practice. It's a wonderful affirmation that we have done such good work. It's not about perfection in the poses, it's about coming to the mat and that we are changed as a result. Things have moved and rearranged, been gained and released. I hope you can feel that you really are different than when you arrived today. So notice the breath now settling into a very soft breath. There's no longer any effort of any kind. For just the last couple of breaths, follow it with your mind's eye to witness those last whispers of inhale and exhale before the turn of the breath. I hope you have had a marvelous practice. Thank you from me for getting to the mat, and I know your body and spirit thanks you too. I'm going to close our practice with the singing bowl. You might choose to Om, or just keep witnessing your soft, steady breath. So grateful for you and for the amazing smells and sounds of spring that are happening that help remind me to be more of a human being and less of a human doing. And I hope you're getting similar gifts. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace, Peace. Namaste. See you again at the mat very